Hello and welcome to I Am Geek, and this is episode 36, and the day has come. It is time for our review, our spoiler edition, our roundtable, our therapy session for Star Wars The Last Jedi. And we've brought on some special guests because we didn't want this to be one-sided. I've listened to some podcasts, I've read some articles, and they've all been one-sided, either really good or really bad, and nothing in between. So I wanted to round it out, have some good, have some bad. Mostly bad, probably, but we're gonna have fun. So my brother Chris is here with us. Our good buddy Catron is here. That's always here with us. And we brought back Ray Chase. Oh, he's been wanting to come back on just to show Dorian who's boss again. And we invited Dorian. We're
guaranteed to have listens, though.
Yeah.
So.
We invited Dorian, but he couldn't make it. So I invited one of my friends, Josh. He is somewhere out in the universe there. He's not on video with us right now, but he's here. You here, Josh?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, he's here. And we brought Josh on for mainly we needed somebody that loved the movie to come on. So
to balance the force.
That's right.
So we're all here.
Balanced.
So
4-1.
4-1, pretty much.
I think it's out of balance.
There's many Jedis and only like 2 Siths, so I guess you're the Sith and we're the Jedi.
We'll see. We'll see how that plays out at the end of this. I mean, fear leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Sounds like you guys hate this movie, so that's definitely the dark side in this scenario. And earlier you were raving around Kylo Ren's lightsaber, so I'm just saying.
True.
It's okay. We can just kill people off at random. It's all right.
I don't even want to say what you would do for that pork.
Porks are my friends, my buddy. Anyways, so we're gonna start the podcast sort of spoiler free, and then we'll jump into spoilers. But we're just gonna basically go around and give our initial thoughts on it without giving anything away, and then we're just gonna dive into it.
Great.
So, should I start, or does somebody else want to start?
I think you should start.
I'll start.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right.
You're just radiating the heat of anger.
Okay, so
let it all out.
Just let it go, man. Let it go.
If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm a huge Star Wars fan all my life. What?
No.
The room I'm sitting in right now is full of Star Wars stuff. Even a Last Jedi poster that may not be there much longer. We'll see. But I was so excited about this movie, and especially my brother and I, Chris, he's on here. That's the only brother I have that I know of. We went to Star Wars Celebration. Yeah, we went to Star Wars Celebration this last Easter weekend, and had a great time. Ryan Johnson was there, mixing it up with everybody, basically saying how he's a super fan, he's doing this for the fans, and blah blah blah, and everybody was just saying, bowing down to him, basically saying, "Oh, we can't wait to see what you do," and blah 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 blah. Well, it's come and it's gone, it's here, and I'll just go ahead and say it. It was an okay movie, but to me, it wasn't a Star Wars movie. I thought it was probably the best fan fiction that I've ever seen. It sort of felt like a story that you would see on YouTube that somebody created. There was a lot of stuff. There was stuff that I liked and that I enjoyed, but there was a few things that happened that sort of ruined the good things for me. And we'll dive into those when we get spoiler. But so to me, it was a good movie, but I had some problems with it. And the more I think about it, the more problems I have with it. So I need to see it again. I've only seen it once, I know. There's some people that I saw on Facebook that has seen it like 14 times opening weekend. I'm like, what in the world? Just the ticket prices alone for 14 times.
They may have, if they have Movie Pass, though. Can't
Movie
you watch?
Pass. Yep.
Maybe. Because they had like all their ticket stubs laying out, and I'm like, oh my
Good grief.
goodness. But yeah, if they have Movie Pass, then that makes it work for them. But
I saw one guy post that he had seen Rogue One 119 times in theaters. and that he was already on a track to do that again for this one.
He financed the whole movie.
That's why Last Jedi is the way it is. But so just so you know, Force Awakens I loved. So I don't want it to seem like one of those haters that every time a new Star Wars movie comes out, I'm just like, it's not my Star Wars.
On your broom right around.
Yeah. Force Awakens I loved. Rogue One I absolutely adored and loved. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was great. I loved it. And that scene with Vader, I could watch that scene over and over again. They just did a good job bringing Vader into that movie without like cramming him down your throat. It was just like it just led right into A New Hope, or Star Wars as we want to call it. So I'm not a Star Wars troll or hater that's just going to hate on anything new. But I've loved everything that's come out so far. Even Star Wars Rebels. I don't know if you guys watched that. I love Rebels. It's a great animated series. So there you go. That's my little tidbit. Whoever wants to jump in, just raise a finger or a hand or whatever, or just start talking.
Ray,
you're on, Ray.
Ray's got a finger.
I raised my magical finger. So I didn't hate it, and I didn't love it. I avoided all the trailers. I watched the very first one that came out. There was like maybe it was the teaser. I'm not sure. But avoided everything. Trailer or TV spot related to it. And basically, I mean, my feeling with the movie was I felt like there was a lot of wasted potential. I felt like there was a lot of characters that really, there's 3 at least that you could take out of the movie, and it absolutely doesn't change the outcome in any way. I felt like some characters were killed off that we had never really spent a whole lot of time with, which it kind of felt like, why did you even bring this character back at this point in the movie if they were going to be eliminated that quickly? I just kind of felt like, there were people have Star Wars problems with the film. It goes against canon or this and that and the other, and most of my problems had to do with it as a movie and the way it was structured. I just kind of felt like I got really bored in the middle. I thought the beginning was awesome, and I thought the ending was pretty awesome, and then the bit in the middle, I just kind of stopped caring, and I was just like, what are we doing? Why are we doing these things? And why are these characters... I felt like character development on some of the characters that we get introduced to in Force Awakens, they kind of put the brakes on. I kind of felt like Rian Johnson was very interested in certain characters, certain Force ability characters, and not so interested in other characters, so he sort of put them off on useless little tasks while he focused on the things that he was more interested in. So that was kind of my takeaway. I mean, I was kind of disappointed when it was over, and I guess throughout the week I've been a little angry, just because I felt like, there could have been so many better ways to handle this or handle that, or to introduce this character, or to deal with that character, or to move these characters along. And I kind of felt like there were characters that I really enjoyed in the first film that were new, that I felt I just didn't really see them advancing in this film, which it just makes me wonder, what is their journey? Because I felt like the pause button got hit on several people's. So and as much as Force Awakens I felt got compared to A New Hope, I felt like there was just a lot of Empire direct lifts that were used in this movie, as well as some stuff from Return of the Jedi. So when people were saying that, that it's bold and stunning and new and visionary, I wasn't seeing it. It felt very sort of contrived to me. So, but there's some really cool stuff in it. I mean, there's definitely some awesome stuff in it, and those will be the moments when I see it again that I'll be waiting for. Because that's kind of how it was when I was viewing it. When we would go into these side stories, I was just kind of waiting for us to get back to the cool story. It's like any minute we're gonna cut back. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Yay. Oh no, now we're back with them again. Okay. So,
Them.
yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Well, I'll go next.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and mostly because I think I'm on the same page with Ray. Most of my things are nitpicky things about the movie as a movie, and it felt like it is never going to end because you have all of these different things that are happening, and all this is like what's going on over here? And just thing after thing, and there's all this stuff. I don't know. It's just not so much Star Wars issues with it as it is just as a movie. It's just like, what? Why'd they do this or that? But I think I need to watch it again just to take in some more things because there was a lot going on and you can kind of concentrate. It's like, okay, I saw this happen on this side of the screen. Let me look over here and look at this, or just different things like that. But because everybody not everybody, a lot of people have said that they didn't like it so much the first time. They liked it a little bit more when they watch it the next time. But I don't know. I think the same things that bothered me about the first time are still going to bother me. So yeah, that's kind of my initial take on this. So there you go.
There you go.
Next.
Yeah, there we go. Next, should we have someone who liked it talk?
Sure, I'll talk. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited
thanks for being
come and
nice to meet you.
Correct you in everything that you think about this movie.
Wow.
The first time I saw the film, we saw it a Thursday night with a bunch of friends, and I walked out of the theater not sure how I felt. I try not to make a determination in the first couple minutes after I see a film. That's what everyone wants to do, right? You walk out of the theater, you stand in the parking lot, you have that parking lot talk outside the theater, and that's a lot of times where you determine whether or not you like the film. Not really necessarily in the movie. It's usually there that you make that determination. So with the group of friends that I go see Star Wars movies with, we have a rule. We don't talk about it. So we walk out of the theater, we get in the car, we go home, and we go see it again the next morning. And then after that, we have our conversation. And I think that really helps us to not get each other down or not to influence the other people in the group's thoughts, and then really be able to have a good conversation afterwards after really thinking it through. I don't think any of you guys saw the movie more than once, right?
No.
Not yet.
Okay. So I've seen it 3 times. I saw it the first night, the next morning, and then that Sunday night I went and saw it again by myself. And I can tell you definitively that the second time it's much better than you feel the first time, because the first time you're processing all these emotions. I mean, things are happening, guys. I know we're not talking about spoilers yet, but things are happening, major things. And I think that you get so caught up in the moment of those major things happening that you totally lose perspective on the film as a whole. And so I think you do a disservice to yourself by not seeing it a second time, because the second time gives you a chance to actually enjoy the whole journey instead of having to emotionally get caught up in, I can't believe they just did that. I can't believe that just happened. Wow, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And just like Luke said in the trailer and in the film, this is not going to go the way you think. I mean, the whole film is like that. That's kind of the theme of the film. For good or for bad, we can talk about that later. But basically, after the second time, I liked it immensely better, like 50% better. And the third time, now I think it's one of my favorites. Maybe not in my top 5, but it's definitely better than all the prequels in my mind. So, and I like the prequels. I'm a prequel defender, so you have to understand that. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the spoilery part to talk a little bit more about it. But after that third viewing, after some time to reflect and pick up the visual guide and listen to podcasts with Ryan Johnson and other people, I definitely have a much more positive view about the movie than I think it would have been possible for me to have after just one viewing, because I think you need that time to let it marinate a little bit.
We could talk about that a little bit, because I've talked to some other people about that, and they brought up some interesting points about multiple viewings. But yeah, so Chris, just let us have it. Old wise one.
Well, first off, I just want to say I'm a little confused because I thought we were getting together tonight to talk about the new trailer for Mamma Mia 2 that just dropped today. super excited for that. Possibly Meryl Streep may not be alive in this one. I don't know. But that's a whole other
She's
podcast,
going to be a
I guess.
Force ghost, probably.
Probably.
I figured
but no,
you were going to talk about Jumanji instead.
No, I'm seeing that this weekend. So,
Good. Okay, good. You'll have to tell us how that is.
But no, I will. No, but I saw the movie, and yeah, when it got done, it was as if a million voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. No, like I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't love it, and I'm kind of on the same page with with Ray and Catron that like the Star Wars stuff doesn't like bother me. Just like it wasn't like Star Wars because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not like Ryan, who's like it's his life.
It's not a life. It's just
well, your life blood. It's your life blood. It courses through.
Like the Force.
Yes.
Like the Force. But yeah, it's just there's stuff that just really bugged me. Like when I got through watching, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. You know, it was okay. And then just slowly and gradually, just like little things just started creeping in my mind. Just like, wait, why'd they do that? Wait, why'd they do that? Well, why would that even happen? And just kind of annoying things. And we can get into more spoilery stuff later. But it's just movie wise, they're just like plot holes to me, and characters that I wanted to follow that just didn't follow through. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
that's me.
I agree with all of you.
And I agree with none of you.
All right.
All of what you just said is not true. Or something.
or something.
I don't even know the line anymore.
Everything you just said is wrong.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, we've only seen it once, so we can't remember everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
This isn't
See it
gonna
see it
go how
three more
you think.
times.
That's
Quotes
my
right.
point.
Oh, I can quote the whole thing. You want me to start? General Hux, please. I'll hold. Still holding for General Hux. Anyways.
That sounds spoilerly.
All right, we're getting into spoilers now.
Spoilers. Turn it
Spoilers.
off.
Spoilers. The one thing I would say about the a comment, and I'm not picking on you, Josh, but somebody else brought this up that I was talking to before, and I just thought it was interesting. And he said, because he saw the movie the first time and didn't care for it, and then he saw it again and he liked it. But he said, but what does that say about the movie? Because this is a guy that makes movies. He's a film guy. He goes, shouldn't you go into a movie and be able to see it once and either fall in love with it or hate it, instead of having to see it multiple times to go, okay, it's growing on me, or yes, I get it now.
You know what's interesting to me is that a lot of people did the opposite thing with the Phantom Menace. They went to the movie, they walked out, they said they loved it, and then a few weeks later, all of a sudden, it's the worst Star Wars film they ever saw.
I mean, I like the prequels.
I do too. I like the Phantom Menace. I'm just saying.
I actually like them. So.
Yeah,
But people, people do a weird. I got some weird
Yeah.
thoughts about the prequels that we could talk about sometime. But
yeah.
like in my ranking of them. But I mean, in regards to Phantom Menace, people walked in and said, "Wow, that was so great," and then within a few weeks, popular opinion changed. But I think when it comes to The Last Jedi, when you're talking about, well, what does it say about the film? What it says about the film is that this movie is different than any other film in the fact that you are emotionally invested in how this film ends. You've spent 2 years dreaming about what's going to happen in this movie. And so you go in with the weight of all those expectations about everything you think could happen, especially if you're one of those people, and I'm not, that chases down every fan theory and every stupid clickbait article. And you've got so many things in your head about this is how I think it's going to go. And this is what I think is going to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, your whole mind is spent trying to figure out what's about to happen. I know I spent my whole first showing of The Last Jedi thinking, okay, now this is going to happen. Okay, now this must be this and this must be that. And then that's what kind of takes away the enjoyment of the movie. So I think if you were walking Star Wars The Last Jedi cold and you've only seen The Force Awakens and you didn't have any history in your whole life of growing up watching the original trilogy and then living during the prequel era, and you walked in, you go, wow, that was a pretty good sequel. but there's a whole lot more behind that,
yeah.
the weight behind that.
Yeah, I sort of agree, but I also sort of disagree because, I mean, I think movies do need to operate well on a first viewing. I remember like when The Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions came out, and I wasn't really a fan of either sequel, and I had friends tell me, well, you need to go see it again, and you need to read the supplemental material, and I'm like, I need to read supplemental material in order to be able to enjoy a movie? I shouldn't have to read things and watch things and look things up online to be able to understand a movie. A movie should just work. When first Guardians of the Galaxy for me is a perfect example. I mean, I was like 100% on board with that movie, like all the way through, and couldn't wait to see it again. And I was kind of that way with Force Awakens, although in the theater, while I was watching it, the whole Star Killer base, I like literally rolled my eyes. It wasn't even a figurative rolling of the eyes. I was like, "Are we doing this again?" And I guess part of the thing for me with The Last Jedi was, I think you do when you see things over and over again. It's kind of like with Return of the Jedi. We all have to accept how Boba Fett is defeated, even though it is completely and utterly ridiculous. I mean, yeah, we've seen it multiple times, and you just kind of, that's just how it happens, right? But some of the problems I had with The Last Jedi, with it being sort of boring and characters going nowhere, now that we're getting spoilery, Finn, Rose, DJ, you could take them out of the movie, and the movie has not changed at all. It's like the same outcome, and I feel like their characters had great potential to grow and go places, but I feel like they sort of kind of did not. So if I see it again, sure, I know what's going to happen, and I'm going to accept that this is what they're going to do in The Last Jedi, but I don't know that it's going to make me enjoy it anymore. It's just going to make me know that, okay, this is where I can go to the bathroom. Because nothing's really going to happen here.
We've got two
gets lots of coins stuffed in him.
Two fingers up from Josh. This is in some countries.
Well, I'm just going to say it. That's offensive. Yeah. The thing with Finn and Rose and DJ, you said that you could take that out of the movie and nothing happens, and I thought that too until I watched it the second time. Hint, hint. And the second time, I realized that this is the truth. If that whole story doesn't happen on Canto Bright, or Blight, or however you say it, then the First Order never notices that they're trying to evacuate the ship, right? So remember, at the end, they're evacuating the Mon Calamari cruiser, and they're getting down to Crate, and DJ betrays Finn and Rose, and he tells them that they're trying to escape. The only reason he knows that they're trying to escape is because he overheard Poe telling Finn and Rose that on the comm in the ship that they stole when they escaped from the casino. That's why he trades that information. So actually, if Finn and Rose didn't go on that thing, there would have been a lot more resistance fighters to make it down to Crate, and our whole story changes because then that Mon Cal cruiser is just going with purple hair, and they're just going, and going on. So it does change the story, even though it doesn't pay off in the way that you kind of think it's going to. It does change the story. It does affect the story.
It's a 40-minute build-up for one plot point.
What? Were you gonna say something, Chris?
No, I definitely see your point that I mean, yeah, that's how they figure that out. But that thing is kind of one of my plot hole things, is that they're following them in this long LA slow car chase. I've watched LA car chases that are faster than this thing, and they're seeing all these ships go away from the big ship. And their whole point is to destroy the resistance, rebels, whatever you call them now. And why would they even let anything escape from that thing? They can obviously shoot them down from where they're at. And their whole point is destroy all of them so there's no uprising again. So why would they even let cruisers go away? And with Finn and Rose, they got on a ship and shot into hyperspace away from it with no one noticing. So why doesn't everybody just get in a ship and just shoot off in different directions? And it's just like, oh crap! Well, we can't follow all of them. So
Well,
So
I mean, I would say to that,
like that.
first of all, they don't have enough ships to do that. If you remember, Kylo Ren blew out the hangar bay with all the fighters and everything, so they may not have had enough ships to evacuate, or maybe those ships don't have light speed capability. But what they say in the movie is that the ships that they're taking the transports down to Crate are cloaked, so they're not seeing them on their scanners. And because there's only one ship left, they're not doing cloaking scans. Is basically what the in-universe explanation is that they're not running cloaking scans. They're not looking for
The First Order is lazy.
Yeah.
They can't.
Well,
they can't-
and the idea too being that Crate is like a moon that no one thinks that they would, no one in the First Order thinks that they're going to go to this moon.
if they're cloaked, they can't see them, but they're still blowing them away.
Yeah.
Well, they
Yeah.
see them because DJ says they're cloaked, and then they run the cloak scan, and then they see them.
Well, they're just horrible at their job. They should just run a cloak scan.
I think that's still a little. I don't want to say lazy writing, but
Lazy writing.
lazy writing. But the one thing that, because I didn't hate the Canto Blight or Bright or whatever Blight side mission, but I felt that it could have been somewhere else. I mean, it could have been in a different movie and been fine. But one thing that I think that, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a writer. I've never made a movie, and so my opinion matters nothing. But one thing that I think that would solve two problems that would made the side mission actually worth being in the movie and save the character or gave another character more thing was that when they jettisoned off, that the First Order does see them and Phasma goes after them. And then that would have been a cool scene on Canto Blight.
That would have been cool.
Because if Phasma would got more, story build, and even if she did die, it wouldn't have been the lame death that she got. Because that was a cool character, and that would have been cool. It would be better than they park their ship in the sand. You need to go arrest them. No, if Phasma's chasing them down through there, that would have been cool. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that. That would have been cool, and they could have duked it out, and then the kids that were in the horse stables witness this, see what the First Order is doing, and leads to their wanting to rebel even more. I don't know, that's just me. Go ahead, Josh.
Can I tell you something interesting that I think will inform the rest of our conversation? Today I listened to the Directors Guild podcast. Have you guys ever checked that out? That's kind of interesting. It's actually put on by the Directors Guild of America. And so after they do their Director Guild screenings, which are before the movies actually come out, they do a Q&A. And whoever the director is of the film that's coming out gets interviewed by another director. So Spike Lee interviewing Rian Johnson.
I saw that, but I haven't listened to it. Yeah.
Okay, so great info on there. But what I thought was really interesting to me, and this kind of informs what we're going to talk about for the rest of this time, is that Rian Johnson told Spike Lee that he actually finished the script of Last Jedi before Force Awakens came out. So he said that when he was writing the script, he was looking at dailies that were coming from the film, but he was not actually seeing the whole film. And we do know that Force Awakens had a lot of edits and kind of reworking of scenes towards the end, which I wish they would put out some of that deleted scenes because they just didn't. But I wonder, just out of saying all that, if the original intention of JJ was to kill Phasma in the trash compactor on Starkiller Base, and then later on, Rian Johnson, they were like, hey, we really like Phasma. We need to sell a few more toys. So if you could put her in this film too and give her something to do, that would be cool. But what Rian Johnson said, which I thought was very interesting in the podcast, is he said that when he was writing The Last Jedi, he was only reacting to his own feelings about what he saw in the script and in the dailies in Force Awakens, not necessarily fan backlash. And he went out of his way to say that because I think a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, they just did this because fans said it should have been Phasma fighting Finn Maz Kanata's palace. So that's why they had him fight Phasma in The Last Jedi. And they just did this because everyone thought this or that. So he said, no, this is all, the whole film was based off his reaction, not necessarily fan reaction to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I read an article with an interview with him from Business Insider. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but
Ray's holding his hand up.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna read the article to you. You can find it yourself. But basically, Johnson in there says there were characters that I wanted to build up, and there was characters I didn't care anything about, and that's why they don't get screen time, and that's why they die. And it's just like, or I had to kill this person because I wanted to make this person look better. And
I think that's pretty obvious in the movie.
Yeah. He didn't like Snoke. He said, Kylo is my guy. I want to base it around Kylo. I'm getting rid of Snoke, so I got rid of Snoke. And it's just like, I get that he was writing beforehand, but they should have done something to make, because it felt like two.
Well, I think that's
two
on
separate.
Lucasfilm.
Well, yeah, I know. No, I'm not saying that's Johnson's fault. The writing for this one should have taken place after The Force Awakens was finished. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, and again, this is nothing on him at all. But he did mention, and I think maybe this was even mentioned with Force Awakens, where they were saying that they were not writing the trilogies as trilogies. They were writing them as standalone films, which I'm like, really? I mean, you have the opportunity. You know now that you're going to make these 3 movies. I mean, this is the plan. You know what your release dates are going to be. Would you not at least have like an outline of where you think this is going to go, and then like hand it to this director and then the writers? And it just seems like a really odd choice to just be like, okay, well, you're going to direct this one. These are the characters we set up from the first one. Do whatever you want. And, and then the next guy has to pick it up, and then, all right, well, now this is what I've been left with. So it just seems like a really oddball way, when you know that you're going to do 3 films, to not, have a discussion and kind of figure out ahead of time, so that the directors, the writers kind of know what the overall journey is for the characters. So it feels like it's all joined together. It feels like it's a chapter in a book and not a disjointed sort of vision that an individual or a couple of individuals have for the movie, which is, again, not on Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams, but whoever's making those calls at Lucasfilm. It's just very, very strange to me.
Yeah,
that's kind of what upset me the most. Is just it doesn't seem like there's a plan, because and just interviews and everything, and just watching the movie, it's just like he just kind of wanted to do his own thing. Didn't care about these guys, and since there wasn't, this movie could almost just have wrapped it up, and that's it. Like, coming out of these movies, usually there's something like, okay, this, I'm looking forward, what's going to happen with this, looking forward to this. And after this one, I was just like, well, that could have just ended it. I don't know if we necessarily need a third one. Because to me, Kylo Ren is like a wuss. He's constantly in tantrums. He's constantly losing to everybody, it seems like. I mean, he seemed better to me in Force Awakens, but then he was defeated at the end of that. And Rey could easily come back and defeat him again, it seems like. In this movie, he was just kneeling down to Snoke the whole time because he knew he was more powerful. He couldn't defeat Rey. The royal guards almost took him down without Rey's help. So there's not really a big bad for the next one that I can get behind. It okay, they got their work cut out for them. It's just okay, they've destroyed their largest ships again. They'll probably come back after the big crawl in the next movie and suddenly have a ton more large ships. But that's about it. It's an army movie now. It's there's no big bad necessarily fight against besides just faceless people and Hux.
I was hoping that, because if you listen back to some of our I'm Geeks, I called it. I'm like, Snoke's gonna die, or I was like, I think that there's a big bad guy that we don't know about, and Snoke's gonna bite it in this one, and it's gonna be revealed that he was just a puppet. Well, yes, he died, but it wasn't revealed that he was just a puppet. It was just revealed that, hey, I'm Kylo. I can take my shirt off and look pretty buff. So I don't know where they go with Kylo. Now, the thing is 9 going to be right after 8, like 8 was right after 7, or is years going to go by and we pop into 9 and Kylo has built something? I don't know. I still wish there was some mastermind behind this whole thing controlling it, and we find out some. But I feel
like it's got to be years in the future, because I mean the Resistance is like a dozen people on the Millennium Falcon, and no one wants to see them going around recruiting, knocking on doors. Can I talk to you about our Lord and Savior Jedi Master Luke Skywalker? I'm selling candy bars, trying to raise money for the Resistance. No, you okay? I'm sorry. You know, that's just going to be so boring, and it's probably going to jump ahead like 10. It's going to be like when we missed all the Clone Wars because we like jumped over that to in the prequels. I think it's going to be like 10 years in the future. The fleet's going to be big again. Rey might have, she might be, teaching. She might have gone back to teaching, teaching new Jedis or something like that. I mean, I just feel like it has to do a jump, because if it just kind of picks up where it left off, it just seems like they have almost no chance of fighting back against anybody, because they're literally the Dirty Dozen right now. So
I was really interested.
And you have to take care of the Carrie Fisher thing too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But I was really interested in Snoke. And like it cut him in half, and I like how he was taken out.
Yeah.
I just wish it had happened in the next movie.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like they take him out and they cut back to the room, and he's laying there dead. I was really hoping he would just like snap out of it, wake up, something would happen, because in this universe, I mean, it's in canon.
Darth
it's not
Maul,
in the films, but Darth Maul gets cut in half and thrown down the chasm, and he is nowhere near as powerful as Snoke.
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker got burned alive by lava, and he comes back. And the only thing I think of is that Snoke's alien race has their heart and brain in their butt, and so when he got cut in half, it severed the ties to the rest of him, and so he was dead.
Oh, my butt
only
heart!
Thing I can think of, because
or Snoke's butt's going to come back.
Yeah.
His butt may come back. And
he could. I mean, I think he's dead, but he could still come back. I mean, Josh. Josh, what do you think about
that he's actually dead?
Or Chris? Yeah. What do you think, Josh? What was your feelings about Snoke's death, Josh?
Well, I thought it was brilliantly depicted, the way that they did it, with Kylo turning his hand to ignite the lightsaber at the same time he's turning the other saber. I agree that it feels like something that should take place in the third movie, but I think kind of one of the big themes of this film is that they're trying to reset Star Wars in a sense. I mean, it's pretty obvious that one of the major things they're trying to telegraph in this film is they're trying to get away from the idea of a familial connection being the driving force behind being a Jedi. They're trying to get away from kind of the chosen one prophecy stuff that really was supposed to end with Anakin, and kind of try to take us down a new path where we can say, hey, look, if you can get to a place in life where you can tap into the Force and you can find a master, you could be a Jedi. And I think sometimes we forget that when the original trilogy came out, that was the feeling. The feeling was you could be Luke Skywalker. You could identify with Luke Skywalker and say, man, if I could just find my Obi-Wan, could train me in the ways of the Force, like I could be the Jedi. And of course you translate that into real life and so on and so forth. You're looking for your Yoda and your Obi-Wan. So I think they're trying to get back to that. They're trying to reset a lot of different things. And this is where maybe it's going to get kind of interesting. So I really enjoyed The Force Awakens when it first came out. Over time, that movie has soured on me a little bit, because a lot of what happens in The Force Awakens is not necessarily fan service, but it's pumping up what fans want to see. And maybe you have the same criticism of The Force Awakens, but there's a lot of just callbacks in the types of characters that they establish. Snoke is a callback to the Emperor. Starkiller Base is a callback to Darth Vader, or to the Death Star. Rey growing up on a desert planet that looks a lot like Tatooine is a callback to Luke growing up on the desert planet. In my opinion, it looks to me as if Rian Johnson looked at all that and said, yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to call back and try to redo the same thing over and over again. And that's where I think fans need to be aware of this, that if we just keep making the same movies over and over again, they're going to get super boring really fast. And so I think it was a really cool, bold choice to say, you know what, we're going to kill Snoke here. We're also going to later kill Luke. Spoiler alert, Luke dies.
What?
At the end of the film.
What?
I must have went to the bathroom
Sorry.
during that time.
So the two big guys, like the master of darkness that's trained Kylo Ren, the master of the light side who kind of maybe sort of a little bit trained Rey, but not really. They're both dead. Like they're gone at the end of this film, and now you're left with Rey and Kylo, and I do think there's going to be a time jump in the next film, and I think we'll come in a few years later. I think they're going to have to deal with Carrie Fisher's passing in the crawl in Episode 9, and then get into the next film. But I kind of like that it says, hey, like we don't need to have those old tropes of what the original trilogy had and even the prequel trilogy. We're going to say it's just these two people, it's these two new characters, and that's where Star Wars needs to get if it wants to go forward. Would I like to see Mark Hamill in the next film? Yeah, I love Luke Skywalker. I would love to see more and more and more of Luke Skywalker. I'd like to see him come back to being that Jedi Master that we all kind of wanted him to be. But I do think that you have to get some of this stuff done. And Kylo kind of almost is talking to the audience when he has that line where he says, forget the past, kill it if you have to. Right? He's kind of talking to us in a sense of saying, like, we need to get away from trying to remake movies that we loved and try to make new movies.
That was Rian Johnson talking to us through Kylo.
No,
I get it. But my thing was that I wanted this trilogy to be the wrap up of the Skywalker saga, and then the next trilogy that's been announced be that whole new world or that whole new thing. Because I wanted it to be, because when I watch The Force Awakens and people say, oh, they're just adding, they're just putting a new emperor and a new this and a new this. For me personally, what I got out of that was like the age-old saying, history repeats itself. History was repeating itself because there was stuff that was unanswered. There was stuff that didn't happen that should have taken place. And the rebels, the rebellion, didn't do what they were supposed to do, which now is why there is the First Order and why there is now the Resistance. And I wanted it to be that come clear that history is going to repeat itself, and just like the bad stuff's going to happen, the good stuff is going to arise. And it was arising in Rey, and it was arising in Poe and Finn. And I almost wanted, which who cares? I mean, I'm just a guy. I wanted it to be sort of like Rebels, where if you watch Rebels, they'll have people come in, like they'll have Leia come in, or they'll have people. I wanted it to be the old characters coming in, but more supporting roles, guiding these characters along into this new path. And this new trilogy ends with the ending of the Skywalker saga, and it moves on into the new thing. And then all the old characters are gone. I just don't think that killing off all the old characters is the way to say we're moving on, so we're just going to kill everybody off. I just don't agree with that. Some people can retire.
I would disagree. I would disagree with you in the sense that it is still the continuation of the Skywalker saga because Ben Solo is a Skywalker, even though his last name's not Skywalker.
He is, but
so
I sort of meant
this is really his story.
I meant sort of the Luke Leia Skywalker saga.
No, I know, but think about this. Like in the prequels, we see the story of Anakin. In the original trilogy, we see the story of Luke. And really, this sequel trilogy is the story of Kylo Ren, who went in a totally different direction than either his uncle or his grandfather.
Yeah, I just think they could have waited to kill Luke.
He's still a Skywalker. It's still the Skywalker story. And if you ever listen to like things that George Lucas has said about what he wanted to do with the trilogy before he sold the rights to Disney, because he was going to make an episode 7. He talks a lot about how it's all about family and it's all about these generations of Skywalkers. So
yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Well, one thing I was going to say is that again, I kind of feel that a lot of The Last Jedi is a lift of Empire as much, if not more so, or as the same amount as Force Awakens is of A New Hope, because The Last Jedi starts much the same way as Empire starts. The First Order has found their secret base, and they have to flee. The attack at the end with the AT-ATs was pretty much like on Hoth, except they just flipped it. The rebels were on the right instead of being on the left, and so forth. Why they need the big all-terrain gigantic vehicles? I mean, do they not have tanks? Do they not have anything else? I don't know. But there was the offer, like the Vader offer or the Count Dooku offer, if you want to go back to the prequels, about join me. I mean, there was that. There was the training of the master, the reluctant master that doesn't want to do the training, like with Luke on Dagobah. And you could even say that DJ was kind of like the Lando character. They go to Cloud City, Casino Planet, and they meet up with DJ, Lando, a shady dude they meet in prison and are surprised that he actually cons them.
Yeah, Lando.
Really? Shocking. So I just feel like, he took all the best elements of Empire and a few elements of Return of the Jedi and kind of crammed them into this film. The whole Emperor scene from Jedi is the Snoke scene. And this one, the throne room, designed a little bit differently. A few more red guys than in the in Jedi that actually do something in this film. But that's the thing. What's that?
I liked them. I thought
they were pretty cool. They were pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're cool.
But I just kind of felt like, he made some cool choices here and there, but I kind of felt like, in general, it was sort of Empire Strikes Back, just not quite as cool. Oh. You could even, if you want to even go so far to say that, the Falcon couldn't jump into hyperspace, right? They couldn't jump into hyperspace to get away from the Star Destroyers in Empire Strikes Back, just like the Resistance couldn't go into hyperspace in this film because of the amazing GPS app that the First Order has to track the space. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing the bold reinvention of the franchise in this film. I kind of feel like he took a lot of the plot elements of Empire and sort of maybe put a little bit of a spin on a couple of them, but some of them were like direct lifts. It was almost like at a certain point I was like, man, this is sort of the same thing over and over again, where the rebels or the Resistance is always got on the short end of the stick, and the Empire First Order is always chasing them down, and there's always something big or something to destroy at the end. They were going out riding in junk ships with no guns to go up against the biggest AT-ATs I've ever seen. What was the plan there? We'll intimidate them with our
You work
numbers.
with what you get.
Right.
I know. I wanted Lando to be in that casino scene so bad. I wanted him to be the guy with the red flower and just be in the background and
drinking a Colt 45.
Yeah, Colt 45. But they still get captured. They still get taken away, and he never interacts with them. But he's the guy in the background. They could have done that. Ryan said that there was no place for him. I feel that was the perfect place for him because he didn't interact with them. He could have just been in the background. They could have saw him
cameo.
Yeah, because that was confusing to me because, so they were looking for the guy with the brooch, and they see him, and then they end up in the jail, and they find, just so happens, another codebreaker guy.
Well, it is a casino.
In the jail with them. Well, I thought it was gonna. I thought they were at least gonna do that's the person they were actually sent to find,
right.
And he just lost the bet and lost his brooch to the other guy,
right.
And because of what happened, it put them in the right place, something like that.
I don't know.
But because that was weird, because they took Jennifer Aniston's husband, slicked back his hair, because that's who that is. It's Jennifer Aniston's husband, Justin Theroux, who's also the voice of Garmadon in Legend and Jago.
That's funny.
And just, it was a random, because, probably not a lot of people know who, that's just a throw. But for me, I'm like, oh, that's what? Just
well, you stalk Jennifer Aniston, so we know that that's...
I have a restraining order, so 15 please, but I'm just saying.
So let's
but
go ahead.
We haven't talked about the one other big thing, which has gotten people kind of like,
Well, I was gonna give
Oh.
I was gonna come back. I was gonna give us a breath for a minute.
Sorry.
And let's just talk about some of the funny things, just to laugh a minute.
Oh, okay.
Some of the comedy that was in it, and then we'll get to Ray and we'll get to Luke.
Like Mary Poppins? That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary Poppins. Yeah. That sort of reminded me of which of the Superman movies where he was in space?
Superman 4, The
Yeah.
Quest for Peace.
Yeah, I think that's what it sort of reminded me of. I didn't have a problem with Leia having force powers, and I think that because she hasn't been trained, that it's sort of they kicked in sort of subconsciously. I sort of wish they had kicked in when she was in the or getting sucked out, and you saw a force bubble sort of around her instead of her going blue and then flying back in. So I wasn't too. I mean, but there was multiple times. This isn't the comedy, but there was multiple times where they could have gracefully exited Leia, and it would have been a beautiful thing, especially now that she's passed. But every time it was sort of like a gotcha moment. Gotcha! She's not really dead. Oh, you thought she was dead again? Nope, she's not dead. I mean, at the end, she could have taken the place of the Jurassic Park lady. What's her name?
Laura Dern.
Yeah, Laura Dern,
Laura Dern.
and flown that ship into that, and that would have been a Leia move. I mean, that would have been wonderful. But they didn't know.
I think the director is a fan of M. Night Shyamalan. It's like, what the twist?
But of course, they did not know that she was going to pass away, and they had plans for her for the next one, supposedly.
Yes.
But some of the comedy things, Poe at the beginning with his jokes. That Poe, he's so funny. I didn't mind it. I thought it was funny. It made me laugh. And then it sort of reminded me a little bit of Han Solo in the prison scene where he's talking on the comm and he's like, I'll find here, and then they shoot the stuff. I thought that was pretty funny. The whole Rey Kylo thing, I felt was a comedy to me. It was a romantic comedy for me personally. It felt like that movie 10 Days I Hate About You, where it's got Heath Ledger and what's her name, sort of like bickering back and forth.
Julia Stiles.
Yeah, I called it the 10th, especially the could you put a shirt on or a towel? See,
Yeah.
I was like, this is like 90s.
Yeah.
Teen
It was
romantic
kind of
comedy.
like, what was that scene for? Who was that for?
Well, I read that it's actually which they could have done this in a million ways, and they picked the stupidest way to do it. It was so that you realized that she could see him, not just hear him. Which is like, which supposedly sets up the Luke is able to be seen places. Go ahead, Catron.
I read also that it was to show that he actually was a tough guy.
Oh yeah,
it was like because he had muscles. But that one part though that also set up the Luke thing was when you could see the raindrops on his glove, and you knew that you can actually interact with somebody that's on that. So that's why this lightsaber killed him. All this stuff. Spoiler.
And I was talking to Ray earlier, but it's because you come to find out that Snoke has been connecting them.
Yeah.
And so, like, Snoke specifically picked that moment in time when he didn't have a shirt on for them to interact. So it was like he was like pimping him out a little bit. It's like, hey, see my boy here? Yeah, you know you want this. Come on over. Come on over to my ship.
So, Josh, this is probably something that you could weigh in on too. There's thoughts going around that this is not comedy, but that because Snoke set them up basically and let them talk to each other, after he's dead and cut in half, they're still talking to each other. So
they're still connected.
They're still connected.
Yeah.
So is Snoke not really dead and is still connecting them to further his plan?
He just forgot to hang up. He didn't hang up.
Or have they?
Dad, get off the line.
Just like everything else, they learned it. Is Josh here, or did he get tired and left? Did he leave?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. He's like, I'm tired of you fools.
He's waiting, so he's not talking over everybody.
No,
Like we do.
I think he's just tired of us. I think he's tired of us already. I just thought that was interesting that he set up the whole Snoke set up the whole connection. And then after Snoke's dead, the connection's still there. So either they learned how to connect, or something mysterious is going on in the background that we don't know about yet. Anybody? No. Okay, that's just me.
No, that. Yeah, I heard. We were talking about that today, actually, at work, and that my Star Wars nerd I have at work. He explained to me that he created that connection, and since they're connected now by the Force, I can't remember, that it just will continue. It doesn't have anything now to do with Snoke.
Gotcha.
It was set up that way, but it will continue. So I don't know.
All right, let's see.
But I don't know how we're supposed to know that, but whatever. Yeah.
So the other comedy element, I guess, if you want to call it that.
The lightsaber to the head, that was kind of funny.
Oh, the lightsaber.
That was good.
He catches the lightsaber and it's like, pew!
Oh.
It's like, oh.
Hey,
I was like,
why
why
didn't they use their Force powers during that whole fight sequence?
Right. That was my big complaint. Yeah. Why didn't
Right, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say it's like when Superman forgets he has heat vision, right?
Right.
Oh, they got me! Burn them! Throw things at them! Do something! I thought the whole scene was symbolic, though. I thought the whole reason why they weren't doing like throwing stuff at each other was because of the symbolism. At one point, she's got his lightsaber. At another point, he's got hers. So I think it was meant to kind of show that look, they could at this point in their Force lives, they could either one of them could either can go either way, which I thought was kind of cool.
Sure.
Yeah. No, it was a really cool fight scene, but I was sitting there the whole time going, well, I mean, he stopped like laser bolts and not even looking at them. Why doesn't he just
choke somebody? Come on,
choke this guy or blow him across the room?
Do the Vader.
Right.
There's nothing to throw in there.
It was cool.
Did
though.
anybody?
No, go ahead, Josh.
Okay.
Oh, did anybody wonder if those Praetorian guards are supposed to be the Knights of Ren?
Oh,
I wondered that.
I thought that at
Because
first.
That's something that got set up in The Force Awakens that really wasn't called back to. And I wonder, actually, if you notice in dialogue, Luke refers to when he talks about the burning down of the Jedi Temple, he says that Ben took a few of the apprentices with him. So he turned some of the Jedi that Luke had been training. So that's kind of interesting to me. If those are supposed to be the Praetorian guards, that would explain why maybe they had a little bit harder time.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool
with them, but it's not for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they're not. I mean, it'd be cool if they were, but I'm kind of hoping they're not because I think that's how they could kind of amp up their villains for the next one.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Is if he goes and gets his Knights of Ren, like, okay, I got my buddies now, and so like have their little biker gang going through space. So
that would be cool.
Well, and what if without?
Go ahead.
And what if without Snoke, they're not all on board with Kylo being in charge of the First Order?
Yeah.
Well, there was that scene in.
Why are you in charge?
Well, there was that scene in Force Awakens when she's having the visions, right? Where you see like Kylo, stab and run through one of his knights. Which I was hoping we were going to get a little bit more information as to why that happened, because it almost, in the vision in Force Awakens, it was almost like she was the person that was in front of the knight that was being stabbed by Kylo Ren. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe maybe she was somehow there or something as a child, but they didn't talk about it. But yeah, that would be awesome if there was dissension in his ranks and so forth and so on, which would add some depth and drama to him other than them brooding over his Skype calls with Rey.
I was kind of hoping. Sorry, I was kind of cutting in. I was kind of hoping.
Finger, please.
Sorry, there's a finger. I'm not used to the finger. I was kind of hoping that's why kind of Snoke would come back. Would be that like he would come back knowing Kylo killed him, so Kylo would have to go off, and so it'd be almost three fractions fighting each other. It would be like the Resistance and the First Order, and then Kylo and his knights. and his kind of group that followed him, and it'd be like this big epic battle between three forces.
Cool.
Which, I mean, it still could happen. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know.
I'll call Abrams right now and let him know. He was supposed to be on tonight, but he had something else come up. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, he's working on something. No, I was just gonna say, you're talking about humor and stuff. One of my favorite moments, actually one of my favorite sequences in the whole film, I don't know if we've really talked about this yet, is Yoda coming back. And they used, I don't know if you knew, they used a casting of the original mold from The Empire Strikes Back Yoda to create the puppet, and then Frank Oz came in and actually got under the floor like he did in Empire and Return of the Jedi, and actually operated by hand the puppet. They had the same people come in and paint the puppet that painted the original puppet. So I love seeing that. And Ryan Johnson said in that podcast that I was telling you about, the Directors Guild one, that they didn't do any CGI on the puppet at all except to do the blue glow. Yeah. So it's all puppet. Cool. But one of my favorite parts is when he does the Empire laugh. The crazy Yoda laugh, and he throws.
That's almost Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, when he throws the lightning bolt comes down, because Luke says, Luke does the whole, hey, I'm gonna burn this whole thing down. Like, I've had enough of this, and Yoda's like, okay, let me do that for you. Yeah, and just throws the lightning bolt. It does that. I love that Empire laugh. I just love it, and I love him calling him young Skywalker.
Yeah. I love the Yoda scene. That was another thing that I called out. I was like, Yoda's going to be in here. There's going to be Force Ghost Yoda. There has to be. And when he popped up on the screen, I was just like, yes. And then I loved it. I loved seeing. I'm glad they went that route with the puppet. And Ray's got a whole hand up. That means he's.
No, I was gonna say, I thought it would have been cool if they had like more. If they had like Qui-Gon, like if it was like, this was like a pivotal moment where you had other Jedi Masters of old, like, coming back to sort of like advise him, or try to make sense to his doubts or whatnot. I think that would have been cool to kind of had it be almost like fading in and out of like just like different ghosts coming in, and kind of like the whispers in Force Awakens when Rey would hear like Obi-Wan whispering to her, this is usually your first steps or what have you, and Yoda sort of saying some things. If there was like a little bit of, not so much montagey, but just a couple of other ones from the past to kind of like he was being, advised by the great Jedi Masters of old, not just the one.
That would be cool, because if you, this is all being a crazy fan, but if you had Yoda do his speech and basically end it with basically like, the Force never dies or something stupid like that, and then Luke just looks around and he's completely surrounded by Masters of the Past, and there's not even words said, and then he just sees him, hits his knees, lightning hits, and then he goes to do his duty. Basically, that would have been cool. I know there was the reason they didn't have Obi-Wan is because he never had anything with Ewan McGregor, and they couldn't do Alex Guinness, so they said, we're going to just do Yoda. And Sir
Alex, makeup on him, make him look old.
Yeah. But, yeah, more Force Ghosts there of Jedi Masters. That would have been sweet. Sort of like the Jedi Council appearing before him to basically say, pull up your bootstraps, get the job done. But the cool thing, the Force light, or the lightning that comes down and hits the tree, people were saying, how does? Oh, sorry, I'll finish and then it's you, Josh. Like, this is another new Force power that we didn't know about. But if you watch Rebels, it is in Rebels. The Bandu or whatever his creature, the guy's name is, I forget his name. He becomes. He becomes the storm and basically rains down lightning, and so I thought that was cool when he started raining down lightning.
So I have to watch the supplemental materials.
That material though is worth it. That's a really good animated show. Yeah.
So I think when you're talking about the Jedi and stuff, though, at the end there.
Hold on. We got some. Was that feedback just on my end?
Yeah, I heard some. No, I heard it too.
We couldn't hear you. It just sounded like a robot.
It was a disturbance in the Force.
All right.
Still there. It may be your mic.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's like
It's
Check,
fuzzy
check.
and
Try that.
digital.
fuzzy and digital. Yeah.
Any better? I'll just wait it out. You guys talk.
It's echoey too.
Wonder what happened. That was weird. Just
Oh,
happened
wow.
all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's like
Still here.
I'm trying to think what you might be able to do. You could try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
I think you turned on his Kylo Ren voice modulator.
That's right. Take off that helmet.
See if you get it fixed, Josh, and they come right back. Yeah, it's still there.
Better?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still staticky.
Really?
Yeah.
Really weird.
I thought that was kind of funny though in the movie when he's talking to Snoke and he's like, "Take off that helmet, that stupid helmet," And it's like, because I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I can't understand a word he's saying right now. Like it's so bad. It's like, I'm so glad Snoke said that. Take off the helmet so now we can understand you.
That's why Snoke was in the movie.
Yeah.
So he can get,
Is that any better, guys?
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right. I unplugged it and plugged it back in.
Oh,
So, what I was getting ready to say though is Luke wrong? I mean, is it time for the Jedi to end when he says that? Because Yoda shows up and basically tells him, yeah, I mean, it is time for the Jedi in the form that they were in. I love that callback to the prequels when Luke says the Jedi at the height of their power allowed Darth Sidious to rise and all that stuff. Obviously, he has an understanding of that. I thought it was really interesting because in the beginning of the film, we're told that, or basically it's implied that Luke's cut himself off from the Force. Then he has that moment where he walks out to the rock and he puts his hands on the rock, which I don't know what the significance of the rock is, but he puts his hands on the rock and can you smell what the rock is cooking? But anyway, he puts his hands on the rock and then Leia says Luke and all that. So he's opening himself back up to the Force. My question is, has he been communing with Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin up until this point, and now that he's reopened himself to the Force, Yoda can appear to him again? Or has he not seen Yoda since Endor, which is an interesting question. But when I'm wondering who told him that story about Darth Sidious, because only a handful of Jedi were there. So I would imagine it's Yoda. But anyway, all that to say, I thought it was pretty interesting that Yoda basically agrees with him, burns the temple down, says you don't need those books. Though, did you notice that Rey kept the books?
Oh yeah, the books are already gone.
Yeah.
With Yoda, probably already knew that.
Yeah, so,
Little thief.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but it's interesting that Yoda kind of seems to agree with Luke's supposition that the Jedi need to end, and then he gives him that beautiful line about your eyes are still always on the horizon, never what's right in front of you, and he hits him with the cane in the nose. But I love that whole scene, and I think Yoda's basically giving his approval to Luke. Yeah, you're right. The Jedi as it is now need to end, and so it's just interesting because it seems like he agrees with what Luke's saying.
well, yeah, just a thought on what you said about when he may have cut himself off. It seems like to me like he probably had spoken to them before, but what made him cut himself off was what he did to Kylo. So he probably had communed with them before that, so he could have learned stories from what had happened before. Yoda could have told him about Darth Sidious and everything. But then once like that thing with Kylo happened, that's when he cut himself off and flew off into space and kind of hit himself, even though he left like 2 pieces of a map on how to find him.
Which
Which
gets us to the Luke of this movie, which I've seen video, I've seen interview after interview of Mark Hamill, and he does not agree. When he read the script, he said, "This is not my Luke. This is not Luke," and it just. That was my problem with the movie. Everything else, I was like, yeah, okay. But I know 30 years have passed. But how can he go from this is the most evil man in the universe, Darth Vader, but I see good in him, and I'm going to fight for him, to this kid is just learning, but I see darkness in him, so I'm going to kill him. How does that happen? Even in 30 years, it's just like, I mean, especially when Mark Hamill's like, this is not my Luke. And he made the thing that he sort of said it. I wrote it down, but then somebody else quoted it. You either die as Luke Skywalker or you live long enough to become Jake Skywalker. And so he's like, this isn't Luke Skywalker, this is Jake Skywalker. So I don't know. I mean, I get it. It made the story move in the direction that they wanted to, but I think he could have been that maybe. Like when I saw him as a hermit, and I laughed even when he threw the lightsaber over his shoulder. And I was like, okay, he's like this, but by the end of the movie, we're going to have our Luke back, and he's going to be in the next one. But that didn't happen. He sort of came back a little bit, but not really, and then he died. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I think the fight scene between him and Kylo at the end is supposed to be that payoff until you know that he's not really there.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But
What?
I agree. I agree that Luke could have come back for episode 9 and had I think it would have been a cool thing to not have him disappear after that fight and then have him come back in episode 9 to actually leave the island and have that final confrontation in reality. But what I will say, as far as what we're talking about with Luke having like that old man hermit kind of point of view and everything, is they're definitely trying to channel some of that Yoda Empire kind of craziness from isolation and all of that. So when you look at all of that, it's like I understand why people disagree with the direction that they decided to take with Luke, and I understand why Mark Hamill just seems to disagree, or at least did disagree. He said he did with the direction that they decided to take Luke. But to me, it's really a good direction, because you think about what they're saying with Luke, and you guys were talking about earlier, Luke's looking at Ben Solo and then he pulls out the lightsaber, and Ryan, you said, how could you go from seeing the good in Darth Vader and throwing down your lightsaber saying, I'm not going to fight you and Return of the Jedi in order to bring about the redemption of his father's story, to standing over your nephew late at night with a lightsaber? I think it comes with experience. I think that Luke was naive in the original trilogy. He hadn't seen much of the galaxy. He was naive to the power of evil. And the older masters, Yoda and Ben, they're absolutely convinced in Return of the Jedi and Empire and New Hope that Anakin cannot be redeemed. They're absolutely convinced of that, to the point where they're telling Luke, look, you need to go kill your dad. Like, you need to go kill your father because this is irredeemable. And Luke, in his kind of naivety, is kind of saying, okay, I think I can redeem him. Now that Luke's grown up and he's seen the galaxy for what it is, I just think about that moment that we see in all 3 versions of the clip where he's holding his hand out, he's looking into Kylo Ren, and he says in the film, I saw everything that was going to happen with Kylo Ren, and I saw that he was going to take and destroy everything that I love. And in that moment, I had a slip, a weakness. I think I don't think that's unforgivable. I think if you're looking at it and you're seeing Han die, you're seeing Leia be killed, you're seeing the Republic being destroyed, and everything that's going to happen in the wake of Ben Solo turning to the dark side, to have that moment, I don't think is a lapse of character arc. I think it's when you grow up, you start to become more cynical of things like good versus light or Star Wars movies.
But sorry, Chris. Just one while I got it in my head. How if he saw everything that was going to happen, then why, when Chewie walks in, does he go, "Where's Han"? He should have known that Han was dead, right?
Always changing the future is.
But he cut himself off from the Force at that point. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He wasn't feeling anything.
Yeah, that's true.
To me, it's like, so to Ryan's point a bit, that growing more cynical as you're growing older, but he's the one, Luke is the one that actually proved them wrong. Yeah. To begin with. Because, they're all like, kill your dad, and he's like, no, and he proves them wrong, that no, his dad saved him in the end. So I don't see how you would lose that, because, that's probably one of his greatest triumphs, is his dad came back to him. So, and his dad was far than Kylo was and Ben was. Yeah. And so that's to me that doesn't quite make sense, because he's the one that kind of like crushed that thought process anyway. And he with seeing the future and stuff, he already knows like rushing into something like that can cause problems because he saw the future in the cave that his friends were in trouble, and he rushed off to Cloud City to go save them, and ended up basically handless and everything off for the worse. So I don't think he would rush into like force scenes or whatever as he would tend to do because he has grown older. He's matured more.
But did he learn that lesson? Because the whole point of Empire is he doesn't learn that lesson and he gets his hand cut off. And then in Return of the Jedi, he rushes to go face Vader on Endor without really knowing how it's going to go down. I think there's something to be said for that idealistic, young naivety of saying it's all going to work out. Whereas when you're older and you've experienced something, and also, by the way, Luke doesn't have anything to lose in Return of the Jedi. I mean, he's going into that because he's all in. Now he actually has stuff to lose: his sister, the family, the Republic that's been built, his Jedi Temple, and everything else. So there's kind of a different scenario than, I could redeem my dad.
Well, he had everything to lose in Jedi because like he had his sister and everything. That's why he went up there, because he knew the only way to kind of end that was to go confront him and turn him. So he had like everything to lose to go up there. He was doing it as a distraction, so they wouldn't mess with Darth Vader wouldn't mess with anything that was happening on Endor, even though they knew that was happening anyway. But Ray, you had a hand up?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, my expectations for Luke were not what I was thinking it was going to be after Force Awakens. I didn't necessarily have a problem with a lot of the Luke stuff because I thought, kind of like I think Ryan, you had said, I thought what was going to end up happening was that he was going to be kind of this, disillusioned, curmudgeon kind of guy, and that Rey was going to kind of bring him back to being the Luke that we kind of know and love by the end of the movie. And then, episode 9, he's going to be back to being Luke again. But then he's only back to being Luke for maybe like 5 minutes, and then he's dead. So it's kind of like, we never really got him back, The thing is, though, I mean, it didn't bother me in the movie with him possibly going to murder Ben Solo until later on when I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, how are you going to face your sister?
Yeah.
It's like, well, Leia, you sent him to me because you thought I could help with the darkness. I got a little freaked and I killed him.
Life Day dinner would not have been good. That's their Christmas.
What? So, look, I've seen a lot of stuff. Okay. Yeah. So it was a little bit like, but the way they did it, I kind of accepted it because it was like, he had like a fleeting moment where he was like, oh crap, I'm gonna like off this kid, and then he didn't do it. I guess the thing for me, the big sort of disappointment with Luke for me was that. I mean, obviously, you don't know how long he's been in seclusion. Maybe it's been 10 years or so after, Ben, burned down the temple and ran off. And I guess I was just thinking that my thought from the last movie was that he's there waiting. He's there waiting for, the next version of himself to find him that's going to save the galaxy, that's going to right, the mistakes that he's made. She kind of shows up. He's cut himself off from the Force, and I just felt like, okay, when you find out that Kylo's out there doing all kinds of bad stuff, killed your buddy Han, it's like, oh no, I need to like snap out of it. Instead, he's like, I'm not interested, whatever, and it took so long for him to come back. And then finally, when you start to see, like, okay, he's making the turn, he's going to teach her, and so forth and so on. She runs off. He has a change of conscience, and then he's just gone. He's just dead. And for someone who doesn't have, if you just watched this movie without having any knowledge of Star Wars at all, I don't know that you would feel anything for Luke other than think that he's kind of a jerk. Like if you never watched another movie until this one, because by the time he sort of swings back from being kind of the grumpy old man, it's almost like you don't care anymore because the movie's almost over. And then he's dead, and you're like, well, good. The old grumpy man's gone. So I'm hoping he's back as a ghost.
I think he'll be back as
a ghost.
Josh has to go here soon, but he wanted to give one last rant. We're already at a minute or an hour 19, and I had a couple more things that I want to talk about. But Josh, go ahead, give it to us. And then we'll Cut it out later.
Well, oh my gosh. Well, I have to be the positive choice on this show. So, but it's 12:45 a.m. where I live, so I think it's time for me to start to pack it up.
Yeah.
But hey, this is what I want to tell you guys. So I'm going to tell you why everything you think about this movie is wrong. And
is this Is this a BuzzFeed article?
No, this is a Josh Feed article.
Okay.
And I want to tell you why, because I've had a lot of time to think about it. I've talked to a couple of friends that really didn't like the movie, and I've talked them back. I know one guy I talked to yesterday, he said he was a 6 out of 10 for Last Jedi. I got him to an 8 out of 10. So I want to help you guys. I want to help you guys like this movie a little bit more. I think that, so I need like a solid 3 minutes of not interrupted time. Okay.
Whoa. You obviously haven't listened to I Am Geek before.
I said 30. So here's the deal. All the things, there's two camps that people fall into. Either you're somebody who spends a lot of time speculating and thinking about what's going to happen in Star Wars films before you see them. You're reading every BuzzFeed article. You're clicking every clickbait thing, /film, whatever is putting out. You're really interested in that. And so you're spending a ton of time contemplating what's going to happen in the next film. And then the other category is you're someone who's definitely interested, but you're trying to avoid that. Now, in the past, I have been the person that really wanted to know everything that was going to happen, talking about it, thinking about it. This time with The Last Jedi, I really made a concerted effort not to read anything. I only watched the 2 trailers once or twice. I really tried not to do that to myself because I wanted to walk in with a fresh perspective. But when you start actually going scene by scene through this movie, I think you're going to realize that you really enjoy most of it. Like, I think there's parts of it that you're going to say, you know what, that's kind of silly, or maybe I wouldn't have done it that way. But overall, this movie has insane rewatchability. And I know none of you guys know that because you haven't done it yet. But the rewatchability of this film is fantastic. And when you start off, I mean, that whole opening scene with the what do they call that thing? The cruiser. They have a name for it. But anyway, when they take out that cruiser with the bombers, that's an amazing thing. That's something I've never seen in Star Wars before. Like, those bombers were awesome. I love that concept of the bombs dropping out the bottom. Poe's whole thing with Hux is hilarious. There's a your mom joke in Star Wars, so that's interesting. Did you guys catch that? He says, General Organa has a message for you. It's about your mom.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a your mom joke in Star Wars. That makes my life so much more complete. Like, going out of that whole sequence, Poe does that crazy X-Wing spin thing. I mean, it's awesome. Then when you get into the long high-speed chase through space, it really sets up a tension. Like, there's a tension there in that thing. And really, if you start going through it scene by scene, it's like, well, I kind of like some of that stuff, right? Like, you get into the starship, you get to see Finn in his water suit, back to suit thing. And that whole sequence, you get to see Finn having his doubt about whether or not he's really committed to the Resistance, because people keep saying there's no character development for Finn, but there is some character development because he's still having to deal. I mean, remember, this movie takes place like minutes after, and for him, seconds after, because he's been in a coma or whatever. Force Awakens, he's still trying to decide, am I even part of this Resistance? So you get to see some of that. You get to see that. I love that scene with him and Rose where he's thinking about getting in the escape pod and she shocks him. Do you remember that with the taser? I mean, that's some great stuff. He's really, committed to the idea of, hey, I'm leaving, and she's talking him out of it by force. All of that's really good. You end up with the stuff with Luke and Rey on Octu, and whether or not you appreciate the decisions that they made with Luke, you got to say that a lot of that was awesome. Just seeing Luke Skywalker again is awesome, but some of the stuff that he had to say was fantastic. Some of those moments with Rey, especially when Chewie comes blasting through the door and is roaring at him. I mean, that was a great moment. And then you get the "Where's Han?" And then I love that crossfade from "Where's Han?" right into Kylo Ren. I love that moment when Snoke tells him to take that stupid mask off, because one of the tropes that I hate about Force Awakens is that they felt like they needed to do another Darth Vader. And I know it sells toys, But the reality is that I love that he said, at least how I felt as an audience member, that mask was stupid. And then they get rid of the mask immediately. So it kind of felt like hey, we didn't really like that part of Force Awakens. Let's get rid of that, JJ. You're stupid kind of moment. But I love the smashing of the mask. It's a ceremonial thing in my mind of him saying, I'm not going to be this person anymore. There's character development there. Then when you cut back and you start looking at all these different plot lines, the Canto Blight stuff doesn't really do a whole lot for the story, but it's a fun adventure that kind of gives us a more chance to see some aliens and some more parts of the galaxy. Gives us a chance to see BB-8 be awesome with his coin shooter ability that apparently he has. So I mean, that was really fun. Also, by the way, I love watching BB-8 in the X-wing at the beginning when his head rolls back down into the X-wing. That's so cool. So that's really fun. And then as you get on with this story about a lost and broken mentor that's not going to be who Rey wants him to be, really the message of this film is don't meet your heroes because they're going to disappoint you. I mean, Rey is going expecting Master Luke Skywalker to be this amazing Jedi Master and to train her in the ways of the Force, and it's totally not going the way that she expects. And so I enjoy all that stuff. Everything that happens in Octu pretty much with Luke and Rey is really good stuff. Those weird caretakers, the Porg barbecue with Chewbacca is a lot of fun. The poor Porg, he's so sad. Ryan, let's see your Porg be sad. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Super sad about the Chewbacca barbecue.
That was so funny, though. I laughed out
loud. How about, we didn't even address this, but how about that scene with R2-D2 on the Falcon? Where Luke gets to have that and the way he says R2 is so reminiscent of how he talks to R2 throughout the original trilogy. And then, he says, look, I'm not going back. And then R2 plays the help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
She'll make me cry.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm saying, like, that's an amazing moment. That if you had told me in 2011, before they announced these movies were coming out, that we were going to get a movie where we were going to see Luke Skywalker hang out with R2-D2, Yoda, and Chewbacca, you would have been happy with that, because that's such an amazing moment. So we get to see that with R2-D2. We cut back. We see some of the stuff going on with the First Order. The whole thing happens with Rey and her FaceTime calls with Kylo Ren and going into her version of the cave and all that stuff. All of that's pretty good stuff. I love the concept that they're building of the relationship between Rey and Kylo. It's complicated, right? That's their status, their relationship status. It's complicated.
That's the title of the next movie.
Yes. Because the reality is that Kylo and Rey kind of seem by the end of this film to like each other. Like, not maybe necessarily in a, like I love her kind of way, but in a like, hey, we can actually be friends. And I love the progression of, she starts out by calling him a monster, and then she starts to get to know him a little better. And there's some beautiful opportunities for character development between those two in those FaceTime calls. Obviously they have the touching incident where they're touching hands. Luke
whoa, family friendly. No?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. But Luke blows the roof off of the hut, which was awesome. You get to see like that first little glimpse of Luke being the Jedi Master. I don't know if you guys caught that because it happens really fast, but he blows that whole hut up, which is cool. Yeah. So we do see that he's got some power behind him. You get through all of that. You get Rey on the ship, the throne room scene. Everyone seems to like the throne room scene. You get to see some awesomeness. I love when Kylo says, when she says to Kylo, okay, we could still save the fleet. And Kylo's like, no, like, join me and together we'll rule the galaxy kind of thing. I love how Rey just says to him, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Like, she knew that this was how it was going to go, and or at least she had a suspicion of that. So we love all that stuff. I think you guys probably love most of that. The Yoda stuff is fantastic. Every moment of the Yoda scene, I have no qualms with. I love it. And then going into the battle on Crate, can we just agree, all of us, that Crate is a beautiful planet? Like, that was a beautiful design with the red soil underneath the salt.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. A great concept. Very different. At least it wasn't, hey, we're going to desert planet number 7,412 that looks exactly like Tatooine, or it's like, hey, we're on an ice planet. It's just like Hoth, but we're going to call it Moth. It wasn't like that. They actually did something that was visually different and unique. Yeah, there's AT-ATs and there's mega AT-ATs. or Adat Prime. I don't know what you call those things, but it's very quick. You don't even see those things really do anything except try to blow the crap out of Luke Skywalker at the end. And of course, the fight at the end is fantastic. And then you get that reunion and that great speech from Luke at the end where he says, everything you just said is wrong. And then he says, the war has just begun. The rebellion is reborn today, which I hope they go with that terminology because I like that a lot better than resistance. And I will not be the last Jedi. Now, I know I just ran through the whole plot, but what I'm trying to tell you is you like most of that. You like most of that. Like everything that I just said, you like most of that. And the majority of what people's issues are with this film are, but it could have been. But if you live your whole life thinking, well, it could have been, then you're never going to enjoy anything. Like Thor could have been better. I liked Thor. Thor could have been this. It could have been that. We could have had the Infinity Gauntlet. We could have had this. It's a great movie. But but the reason that you like that movie is because you're not walking into that movie with incredibly high expectations. Like we build these stories in our head of what it's going to be. The reason that Force Awakens didn't have that same effect is because none of us knew what was going to happen. But as soon as we knew what was going to happen, we started to build that expectation in our head. 30-something-year-olds, I assume most of us are in that range, 30 to 40, 50. I don't know how old Ryan is. I can't tell when you're bald. But here's the deal.
I will be 40 in May.
Okay, so 30-something-year-olds
I'm
like
old.
us. Listen, they all hated Return of the Jedi at first. They all talked about how it was all a bunch of teddy bears. It was all stupid. They hated Return of the Jedi. They thought it was dumb. Why? Because they had so many expectations coming out of Empire, and they had built up such a story in their head that when they went and saw the story that Lucas had for them, they didn't like it, and they rejected it. And then a lot of them later on, years later, came back and said, actually, I really like Return of the Jedi. But it took time. I know I talked to Ryder Wyndham one time, who writes a lot of the Star Wars books, and he told me that he hated Jedi when it came out, and it took him 10 years to get over it, and now it's one of his favorites. So I think that you have to let go of all those expectations going into a film like this, and you just have to let the storyteller take you for the ride and not keep going, but it could have been this, but it could have been that, but it could have been this. I'm not saying you just have to have blind faith in every movie, but and I do think this movie would have benefited from having been written like simultaneously with Force Awakens and whatever Episode 9 is going to be. I agree with some of those criticisms, but ultimately, when I run through the plot of the film, you love most of this movie. So you guys all need to go see it again because you're gonna like it a lot better the second time.
Well, I said at the beginning that I liked the movie, but because of personally what they did with Luke, it sort of ruined the whole movie for me. And there's a lot of movies that are like that. You like a lot of the movie, and then something happens, and you're like, I don't really like the movie anymore. For me, and I know this is just me personally, but I said it on all social media, with social media's taking over, and that's probably why a lot of this is happening. People don't like it stuff. But I said what I liked about the original trilogy is that there was a sense of reason and purpose and connection to everything. But with this new trilogy, so that includes both of them together, we are shown that there's no reason and purpose, and nothing is really connected to anything or anyone, which sort of makes life in a galaxy far, far away a little depressing. And A New Hope is faded, and morality has set in. And to me, it was my escape, and sort of what I talked about earlier, that the swashbuckling adventure sort of died in this movie for me. And that's just me personally. And that's why it upset me so much that it wasn't... I mean, we haven't even talked about Rey when Kylo says, your parents were nobodies. You're nothing. Well, to me, in the original trilogy, because everything was connected in some form or way, it gave purpose and it gave reason and it gave hope. And now they've sort of burned that down and said, you know what? Anybody can have the Force, which is fine. But you're a nobody, they're a nobody, we're all just nobodies, and this is just reality. And for the day and the age that we're living in, where basically the world is saying that every day, it just took me out of the Star Wars mindset that I've had. And that's just me personally. And that's why art is art, because people see art in different ways, and doesn't make it right or wrong how people see things. And that's why, that's why I wanted to have people on here that liked the movie and loved the movie and didn't like the movie, because I wanted people to see that this is art. And don't go around trolling people and bashing people for not having your same view. Now, when episode 9 comes out, I can look back at episode 8 and see how it all fits together and go, oh, this makes a great trilogy and I love it. Or I could go the opposite direction and say, yeah, I still don't like it. But it's art, and I don't want people to say, well, you've got to love this movie if you're a Star Wars fan, because I don't think you have to. I think I could still be a Star Wars crazy fan and not like The Last Jedi. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to see it again, because I probably will. But for me personally, growing up, dealing with depression and dealing with a lot of stuff that I dealt with, besides my faith and God, Star Wars was that one thing that I could always go to and gave me hope. And because of my past, and my past alone, personally, it sort of burned all that to the ground with Last Jedi. And I'm sure if I see it again and again, I'll change some things. But for me, and from what Rian Johnson has said, he wanted to burn it all to the ground and start over. And for me, it doesn't play into my Star Wars saga, if that makes sense. And that's just me being personal. And you guys can hate it or like it or agree or disagree, but that's just me personally. That's why that I didn't care for The Last Jedi. It was a good movie, but it stirred up a lot of emotions in me that I didn't want to. I didn't want to stir up. Anyways, sorry, Ray. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I think if you have to convince yourself that you like something, you don't really like something. It's like, I mean, it's like with eating foods that you don't like. If you eat it enough times, yeah, you get used to it, but you didn't like it the first time you tried it. And the thing is, I mean, I kind of, to use another movie, Iron Man 3, I cannot stand Iron Man 3. Chris knows how much I hate Iron Man 3. And I've tried watching it again. Because it's kind of like, what I said at the beginning, like with how Boba Fett goes out like a punk in Return of the Jedi, and it's like, Boba Fett, where? It's like this goofy, ridiculous moment. But you get used to it, and you accept it, that's just how it happens. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily good. And like with Iron Man 3, I've tried to give it like another watch, and all the complaints that I had about it the first time I watched it, I still have all those complaints because it just is what it is, right? And I don't know. I mean, I've tried watching like Matrix Reloaded again and Matrix Revolutions, years after I'd seen it the first time and not liked it. And I'm like, yeah, the complaints that I had back then, I still have them, And it's not a matter of going in with high expectations or this isn't my movie. It's just that kind of the things I said towards the beginning. I mean, there's just stuff that just happens for little to no reason. And there's characters that really, in this movie, could be taken out of the movie with little to no effect on the plot. And characters are introduced that we get to meet for the first time that are then killed off before we have any connection to them whatsoever. It just felt very, I guess, poorly made or poorly written, I should say. And I don't know. I mean, after I watch it many more times, throughout the years, I'm sure, you just come to accept it. You come to accept it for its flaws. And there's a lot of great moments. And all the stuff that Josh was saying, I mean, yeah, those are great moments. But R2's in it for like one scene, and then like, where is he? He's just there for that moment. 3PO is just talking scenery. He's just there for like 2 moments. Chewbacca, they don't know what to do with him, so he's sitting around eating porgs all day, and it's just all these characters that they don't know what to do with, and they have like sort of like their scene or their day in the sun, and then they just kind of go away, and that's why I feel like there was a lot of wasted potential, a lot of things that they could have done with some of the characters that they just didn't do. And in subsequent viewings, I mean, I'm going to know and I'm going to expect those things to happen. I don't think I'm going to like them anymore or see any brilliance in them. The scenes that I really love, I'm always going to love. And the scenes that I don't love, I'm just going to end up accepting. But I don't know that I'm going to ever be like, oh my God, I was wrong. This was brilliant. When Finn and Rose set the animals free and Pete the side story, I don't know. But that's just me, man.
So I just want to back up for a second and establish that I'm not saying that you can't be a Star Wars fan if you don't like The Last Jedi.
No, I know. I mean, that's just like that. If you go on social media or you go on
Right.
a lot of these podcasts and stuff, they're saying that, and I'm like, no, you can't say that because it's not true.
What I would say though, Ryan, in what you were saying about your experience, and I'm not trying to discount any of that, but what I'm trying to say is this. You said that at the end of when Star Wars was with you when you were younger and you were dealing with stuff, you always felt like there was a plan and there was a thing that was everything was going somewhere. Yeah. I don't know that we really get that out of the original trilogy. I think some of that comes in from the prequel trilogy. I think the original trilogy, at least in my mind, in my view, is much more about doing the right thing. Yes, there's a new hope, and hope is a good thing, but Luke, making that journey from being the farm kid on Tatooine to being the kid who's facing down the Emperor on the Death Star 2, that journey that he takes, I never felt as a kid growing up watching those movies that was something that was like predestined or pre-established for him to do. It was just something that he did. He found his Death Star. He did the thing that he was called to do in those moments. But I also think that you and I grew up in the original trilogy era where Luke Skywalker is our hero, right? But this movie and Force Awakens, Rey is supposed to be our hero. So even though we may not like the way that they handle Luke, and you may not like the way that they finished off with Luke, I will say I really love the scene at the end where Luke's looking off into the twin suns setting, and you hear that theme again. And it's like he's at peace with the fact that his journey's over from Tatooine to Ahch-To. But we need to be looking at this story, this trilogy, and any subsequent films that are going to be saga films as this is now Rey's story. So from her point of view, she's the one who got called out from being nobody from nowhere, whose parents were just junk traders that sold her for drinking money, to being someone who's involved in galactic events. And I love what Kyla says. You have no place in this story. Because the idea is that anyone could do this. If you start to subscribe to the idea that it all has to be a perfect plan, well, guess what? If you're not born with the last name Skywalker, you're out of luck. So I think they're trying to illustrate that anyone could become the hero of the story if they step into it.
They have one movie though to make her the hero, because she's pretty much already said, I'm only doing one more movie, and that's the last time you'll see me as Rey. So maybe that's why I'm like, I would have rather them went the Rebels route, where you have the new heroes playing through the whole thing, and you have the Leia or the Han or the Luke that pop up intermittently, where the story.
I think there's a high probability that there's going to be an animated series with Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Yeah, but you can't. That's again going to the expanded universe. You can't really. They need to make the movies, and then the rest of it is just cool stuff that we can see. So, because I'm not going to read the books, because I don't know how to read.
That's true. I bear witness to that.
Yeah, but we have been going an hour and 42 minutes, so there's still tons of stuff that we could talk about this movie. The last thing,
I have to go. Though,
yeah,
guys.
you have to go. So we've got to wrap up. I did want to ask, when did you guys know that wasn't Luke in the flesh? And that will be what we end on at the end.
I noticed the first time I saw it that his foot didn't make the red mark when he moved. And I thought about it. Like, I didn't process what that meant, but I thought, what are they trying to say? Like, Luke's floating? Like, I couldn't really figure it out. And then all of a sudden, it dawned on me. But that was kind of my first inkling that something was different.
Mine was the lightsaber. When I saw the lightsaber, I was like, that's not him, because that lightsaber was destroyed. Sorry. Finger.
I first thought it when he kind of first showed up, because he looked like his younger self from the flashback.
His hair was
like,
way
he
different.
trimmed his beard and he dyed his hair.
Yeah.
That's from the porg. The porg, you just rub a porg on your head and it'll dye your hair.
Oh, okay. Nice.
All right, so yours was the younger, mine was the lightsaber, and then Ray, go ahead.
Right.
I don't think I realized any of that until like they showed him on the rock, and I was
okay.
like, oh, he projected himself and the dice and a host of other gifts that he brought for Leia that aren't really there. That's when I realized that he wasn't there. I will say though, in that ending bit, I did like his line to Kylo about "See you around, kid."
Yeah,
it
that was great.
it felt like a very Han Solo kind of thing to say to him, and I felt like, oh, okay, well, he's a hologram. He projected himself there. Well, he'll be back, right? Because he said, "I'll see you around," and then he died, and then I was like, what?
Yeah. I'll see you in your dreams, Kylo. Anyways.
Just in the wind.
Yeah.
Well, Catron's about to die, not literally, but his phone.
No, not
Josh
fine.
is on Easter time. He's got to go. We've already gone about an hour and 45 minutes. So I want to thank you guys for being on. Ray, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, man.
Josh, thanks for putting up with us. Hopefully you'll come back maybe sometime.
Maybe we could talk about a movie that we all like this time instead of making me out to be the bad guy.
No, you're not the bad guy. That's what I
No,
want.
you're not the bad guy.
No, that's what I want everybody to know. All of
There's no
our
bad guys.
all of our 12 listeners or whatever we're at now. I want you guys to know that this is art, and people are going to like it, and people are not going to like it. But that doesn't make either one of us wrong. That this is just our opinions, and that's all they are. Is our opinions, and you know what? Everybody has an opinion. Yeah. So I'm sure when I see it again, I'll like more things than dislike more things. But who knows? When episode 9 comes out, it could change everything. I think episode 9 will be we'll start with Luke waking up next to his wife Mara Jade saying, "I just had the strangest dream," and then we'll just have a new heart. That's what's going to happen in episode 9.
Luke, you woke up baby Ray. I'm sorry, Mara.
Yeah, and that's how we'll end it. But thank you guys.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's
now.
happy. Yay! Who knows? Because Abrams is coming back. So, anyways, thanks for joining us on this episode of I Am Geek. I don't know if we'll have a new episode next week just because of Christmas holidays and everything going on.
What?
We'll see. Maybe.
Christmas?
Christmas.
Life Day. Whatever it is in Star Wars land. Anyways, let us know what you think of this episode. Check us out on Twitter at I Am Geek Show, or on Facebook at the I Am Group, and then comment,
Spreadshirt.
subscribe, Spreadshirt. Just search for I Am Geek. We're on there somewhere. Anyways, thanks for joining us. It's been great. It's been long, but I hope you had a good time listening to us rant about stuff. And Josh, we love you, even though you love the movie. Just kidding. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Ray. We will talk to you again real soon, and see you next time on I Am Geek. Oh,
And may the force be with you.
may the force be with you. All right, see you guys.